Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I hope everyone can see my screen. So hi everyone, thank you all for coming to my webinar on environmentally friendly fall practices. My name is Aubrey Siegel and I'm the current Chesapeake Conservation Corps intern working with Patapsco Heritage Greenway for the next year. I just graduated from St. Mary's College of Maryland in May 2020 with a Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Studies and Psychology, and I'm very excited to have you guys all here today. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? First, I'm going to give a basic overview of nutrients in our waterways, and then talk about some ways that you guys can be environmentally friendly in order to protect these waterways. So what I'm going to talk about is what to do with your leaves, the potential harms of bonfires, and winter salts in our streams, and then at the end I'll have some more fun facts on how to be eco-friendly in the fall. So nutrients in our waterways. Waterways need nutrients, but they only need a small amount. And they mainly need phosphorus and nitrogen. And these nutrients are necessary for the growth of algae and other aquatic plants, which aquatic animals then eat. However, many of our waterways have too many nutrients in them due to human practices. And this all causes eutrophication, which can be defined as excessive nutrients in a body of water that causes dense plant growth and death of aquatic animals. And this does lead to dead zones. And I'm going to go more into those steps of how this occurs right now. So step one, so it starts with many different human practices, such as using fertilizer in our own lawn or gardens, and then also farmers using fertilizers in their crops. And so when humans do this, they're putting nutrients into the soil, but they're adding too many so that the plants then can't soak up all of the nutrients. And this then leads to step two. So when it rains, all of these excess nutrients that the soil cannot retain gets washed down into the storm drains, and it'll flow directly into our waterways, which leads to step three. So these drains empty directly into the water and they're unfiltered. So everything that goes down them is going to end up in our streams and rivers, and then they all flow into a bigger watershed. So this leads to step four. As you can see in the image, all of these nutrients cause excessive algae growth and plant growth. And algal blooms block the light from the water so that other plants then don't get the sunlight that they need. And this then leads to step five. So when the algae decomposes, it sinks to the bottom and it's broken down by bacteria. And this process uses a lot of oxygen, which leads to step six, which is these dead zones. As you can see, the fish here, they cannot survive. So the depletion of oxygen causes dead zones because animals need oxygen to survive. And so as you guys can see, this is a very harmful and negative cycle, but there are some small things that you guys can do about it, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So just really quickly, so everyone understands how significant of an issue this is, I'm going to go over what a dead zone is. So it is a large patch of water that contains little to no oxygen. And dead zones are a huge problem because most animals that happen to come across them, they die because they can't survive. And so dead zones have quadrupled since the 1950s. They are often near coastlines because human impact causes this excess nutrient use. And human activities have caused 2 times as much nitrogen and 3 times as much phosphorus than the natural emissions. And so climate change is also to blame for this, but it is mostly, the primary cause is nutrient overload. But climate change also causes the water temperature to rise, so the warmer water holds less oxygen, so it's harder for the oxygen to get deeper into the ocean. So then as you can see in this image here, all of these red are the dead zones and the size of them, and you can see they're like mostly around the coastlines. And then these like little black dots are where the dead zones are, but they don't know how large they actually are. So how does this affect you? You may be saying that you don't really live near the water, so there's nothing you can do about this and it doesn't affect you at all. However, that is not true because everyone lives in a watershed. So that means that everything that you pour down the drain is going to end up in the water. Excuse me. So most people on this call probably live in the Chesapeake Bay Watershed. So that means that everything that goes down your drain is going into the Chesapeake. So in 2019, the average size of the dead zone in the Chesapeake was 1.5 cubic miles. However, at its largest, it got to 3.1 cubic miles, which is equivalent to 5.2 million Olympic-sized swimming pools, and that is about 8% of the bay. So as you can see in this image here, all of the red is the dead zone, and then the blue is the healthy water, and then as it gets closer to red in color, that means there's less oxygen in the water. So why should you care? This is a big problem for everyone. It affects you and everyone you know. So if we work together to reduce the amount of nutrients going into our waters, we will have healthier fish to eat, and this includes the crabs and the oysters that come from the bay that everyone loves. And we'll also have healthier and safer rivers to swim in, and also healthier water for your dog to drink when he or she drinks the water from the rivers. So this here is a picture of a dead zone in the Chesapeake Bay. So this is taken at Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel in Norfolk, but as you can see, all this green here is the algal bloom, and then all the blue is the regular water, but you can just see how immense of an issue it really is. So what does this mean for you in the fall? Okay, so first I'm going to talk about what to do with all of your leaves. So fallen leaves contain a lot of nutrients. This includes carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, among other nutrients. And leaves actually have 80% of the tree's minerals in them. They're stored in the leaves. And so all of these nutrients are beneficial to the soil, and they will actually act as a free fertilizer. So if you apply them to the crops, only some of the nutrients are going to be available immediately. However, over time, they're going to release the nutrients and increase the health of your soil. So the contents vary per type of leaf, but in general, leaves contain twice as many nutrients as manure does, so they're actually better for your soil. And it is illegal to dump leaves down a storm drain, so you may be saying, like, if there are all these benefits to leaves, why are they considered illicit discharge? But I'm going to talk about this more in a few slides, but all of the nutrients in the leaves cause there to be too many nutrients in the water, basically. So I have created a do's and don'ts list for what to do with all of your leaves. So first, I'm going to talk about the don'ts. So first, you don't want to put them in the trash. A lot of people tend to just put them in a bag and then put them on the corner with the rest of their trash. However, leaves are organic matter. So when they're brought to the landfill, they're going to break down as anaerobic decomposition due to the lack of oxygen at the landfill. And this is going to generate methane, which is 25% more potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Another thing you don't want to do is leave them on your lawn. This is going to cause them to grow mold and fungus to grow when the leaves get wet, and it will also cause your grass to die. You really don't want to burn them. This is very bad, and it's actually prohibited in many counties across the US, and it is prohibited in Howard and Baltimore County. So when you burn leaves, it releases air contaminants like dust, soot, mold, and other allergens into the air, and this can cause a bunch of health problems. Also, burning leaves can lead to forest fires, And then the ash from the burned leaves is going to pollute the soil and the waterways. So another thing you don't want to do is rake them into the streets, and you can't unless you have a service that's going to come and pick up the leaves for you, because some neighborhoods have that. But if you don't want to put them in the streets because it may clog the storm drain, and this will cause local flooding in your own neighborhood. In addition, you don't want to dump them down the storm drain or the river. So this is the main thing. So when you're putting the leaves down the storm drain, you're also putting all the nutrients from the leaves into the water. And so as I just talked about, the water only needs a small amount of nutrients. So leaf litter is actually one of the biggest contaminants of water, and it may account for 60% of the annual phosphorus yield comes from leaf litter. And so, as I talked about before, the excess nutrients lead to eutrophication, which leads to the dead zones and is very just unhealthy overall for the water. So now I have some things that you can do instead of all the things I mentioned just not to do. So first, you want to make sure that you're clearing your leaves from the yard. This is especially before a storm because the leaves may wash away, and then they'll also create the mold and the fungus that I just mentioned. So one of the best things I think you can do with leaves is to use them as mulch. This is probably the easiest thing that you can do. Just use your lawnmower and mow over them like you would for the rest of your grass. And then you can also use these mulch leaves and put them in your garden if you have one. So if you do, this will protect your plants from the winter weather, such as like the rains and the snow, and it can provide them with a blanket to keep them nice and warm and provide nutrients for them. And so here I have a little video that kind of reiterates everything I just talked about from the Columbia Association.
Hi, I'm John McCoy. I'm Columbia Association's Watershed Manager. And I'll tell you what, everybody likes to rake their leaves up. That's a lot of work. I want you to consider doing something a little different this year, doing something that'll help your lawn, that'll help us soak up a little runoff, help us with our Slow the Flow program. Grind your leaves on the lawn. Let me show you why. Gives it this nice dark color. Soil organic matter helps your plants grow, retains nutrients, it retains moisture, rainfall. When the rain lands on the ground and it soaks in the organic matter, helps that. That will help us reduce the volume of runoff also. So instead of raking your leaves off, think about grinding your leaves up. Grind them into smaller pieces like this. They will decompose by spring and be gone. This organic matter will be good for your leaf or for your grass. It'll release nutrients and it'll be good. It'll help soak up moisture. Mulching leaves is easy as 1, 2, 3. Step 1, start with the leaves on your lawn. Don't let them get too thick. Grind them regularly as you mow your yard. Step 2, use your mower to chop the leaves into smaller pieces. Mow from the outside edge of your lawn in circles closing towards the middle, throwing the chopped leaves into the middle. Step 3, you rake up any excess that's covering up your grass and apply it to your flower and shrub beds, natural areas, or your vegetable garden as mulch. You got too many leaves in your shrubs and flower beds? Rake them out, grind them up with your mower, and use the ground leaves as mulch. Now you see, that's not so hard. Now leaves and their second lives as mulch will help you out a whole bunch of different ways. One, they're going to help your lawn. They're going to carry nutrients into the soil. The organic matter is going to help your lawn grow. 2, they're going to keep those nutrients on your lawn and out of our waterways where they cause excessive algal blooms. It's going to help our whole watershed effort. And 3, by keeping your leaves, mulching them, it keeps them out of our storm drains. And storm drains clogged with leaves causes localized floodings. So if you want more tips on small
So another thing that you guys can do is to compost your leaves. So if you don't have your own compost bin and you don't want to start one, you do have a few options. This is just I found for if you live in Howard County. However, your county may have different options. You can just look at their website. So you can, for Howard County, you can just bring them to the Alpha Ridge composting facility. You can also see if your neighborhood is part of the Feed the Green Bin program, and this is like where you put the bin on the corner like you're recycling and you put in all your food scraps and the county will come pick it up. And there is a little website that I can share with you guys to see if your neighborhood's eligible. However, it is mostly just in Elk Ridge in Columbia right now. But you can sign up if your neighborhood's not on the list, and they'll keep track of the residents interested in your area. So if you are interested in starting a compost bin, I found for Howard County also that they offer free compost bins. Other counties may as well. You can also just look on the website. However, if they don't, you can just make your own bin using like a metal fence and putting it in a circle, or you can buy a relatively cheap one from like Home Depot or Lowe's. So what is compost? It is essentially decomposed organic material. So things that can be composted are like food scraps or leaves. And compost is full of nutrients and can be used as a fertilizer for your plants. So there are many benefits of compost. First, it improves soil structure. So the natural proteins in compost help dirt bind together. Also, compost is just really good for the environment because you are preventing the organic material from going to the landfill, and instead you're putting in your compost. And so this means it's not releasing methane into our atmosphere. So some leaves are better to compost than others. For example, oak and holly leaves take a longer time to break down. So it's recommended to mix a bunch of different types of leaves together. It is also recommended to chop the leaves before you put them in the compost, just so that they decompose a lot quicker. You can use whole leaves if you want, but it'll take a lot longer and they tend to mat together, which makes it difficult for water and air to get through. And so in addition to your leaves, you will want to add some greens to your compost. So this can be anything like grass or food scraps, and that's because they are higher in nitrogen than the leaves are. So you'll want to start your pile with 4-part leaves and 1 part greens, and then continue to turn it 1 to 2 times a week, and then add in more greens when you turn it. And so turning the pile helps the oxygen get through, and it'll help it heat up and compost more quickly. You are also going to want to keep your pile moist. So if your bin does not have a lid, you will want to cover it with like a plastic sheet or some other type of lid that you can find. And if you have too many leaves for your compost, you can just keep them in a pile next to your compost bin and then add them in whenever you need them. So if you don't feel like making compost, this leaf mold is a lot easier option for you guys. So leaf mold is basically if you go into a forest and you move around the fresh leaves underneath, you're going to see the brown crumbly material, and that is what leaf mold is, and you can make that yourself. So leaf mold decomposes slowly and then it gradually adds nutrients into the soil, and it's not as nutrient rich as compost, but it's a lot easier and it's quicker. So some of the benefits of leaf mold are that you can use it as mulch. It's great at retaining water. It also reduces stormwater runoff, and it will help cool off the roots in hot weather and improve the soil quality, and it's also a great habitat for worms and beneficial bacteria. So it will take 1 to 2 years to complete, but it's worth it, I think. So here, there's like 2 ways that you can make it. So the first and easiest way is just putting it in a large trash bag. What you want to do is just chop up your like mulched leaves like with the lawnmower, and then put the leaves in a bag and moisten them, and then close the bag and poke some holes in it so that it will allow for airflow. You can use whole leaves if you want, but it's recommended to put in compost or manure with it to help the process move a lot quicker. And then the other way that you can do it is just making a pile in your backyard. So you'll want it to be at least 3 feet wide by 3 feet tall. And then you'll also want to moisten the leaves and stir them every now and then. And so leaf mold is a pretty big thing in England. And so this video is British, but
trees in
it goes
lawned
over
areas.
everything
So
I
I
said.
need to get those leaves off the grass. The grass will quickly be damaged if you let the leaves sit on the lawn, and you'll encourage disease into the lawn. So there's 2 ways of collecting your leaves. You can either use a lawnmower, which is fantastic because it will pick up and shred the leaves, or the good old-fashioned keep fit method with a rake. Now, what I'm going to do with these leaves is turn them into a leaf mould. And leaf mould is a fantastic soil conditioner. It doesn't replace adding organic matter to the soil, but it will improve the drainage in the soil, and it will encourage lots of worms and activity from beneficial insects. So I've raked my leaves up. I'm literally, in a small garden, going to put them into bags, good strong bags. In a larger garden, you can make a wire frame and literally pile the leaves into the wire frame. So I'm just going to put these leaves into the sack. Some leaves are tougher than others to rot down. So things like chestnut and evergreen leaves, they need shredding with the mower. And these leaves will remain in the bag for a year. Right, so fill your bag, add a little bit of water to the top, not much. If the leaves are wet, you don't need to worry so much about this. Got a wire here, top of the bag. This is such valuable soil conditioner, and it's so easy to do. Right, and then I literally get a good old-fashioned screwdriver, and I'm going to put lots of holes in the bag. This will allow for drainage so it doesn't just sit. Okay, now once I've got that bag, I just can turn it upside down, and I'm going to place that in the shade. Just leave it in the corner behind the shed, forget about it, and every so often I'm going to pick it up and store it the other way up for a few weeks and then turn it over again. So you've got a mini compost heap there. Now this here is last year's leaf mould. It's great stuff. You can see it's really full of goodness. And this I'm going to either use as a mulch on the beds in the autumn, or I can add it to my compost heap or dig into a border. If you leave it in the bags for 2 years, it will be a brilliant, brilliant soil conditioner, but most of us only have the patience for a year, so therefore it ends up as a better mulch. So make the most of your leaves, and happy autumn.
Okay, so the last thing that you can do with your leaves, this is also for Howard County, there's a rake and take program where rakers rake the leaves they don't want, and then the takers take their leaves. They just set it on the curb. It's very easy. I have included the email here for anyone who is interested. Yeah, other counties may also have similar programs, so you should check that out. So overall, by partaking in these eco-friendly methods, you are helping to stop the leaves get into our rivers and are thus helping reduce the amount of nutrients in the water. And so these simple actions are also helping to contribute to healthier fish and seafood, and then healthier bodies of water for all of us to swim in. So next, I'm going to talk about the potential harms of bonfires. I know everyone loves bonfires. I do as well. So it's just good to be safe about them. So bonfires contribute to air pollution. They produce a lot of nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and potentially toxic volatile organic compounds. And this leads to a lot of negative health effects because the smoke can get into your eyes and respiratory system. It can also worsen asthma symptoms. And also some of the substances found in wood smoke are also found in cigarette smoke. So Also, bonfires affect local ecosystems, so places where they occur regularly. The dead wood is like over collected, and this creates a lot of soil erosion. And then also people tend to cut down healthy wood, even though it does not burn very well. And also, if you don't put out the bonfire completely, it can lead to forest fires. So air pollution also contributes to water pollution. According to the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, about 30% of the nitrogen found in the bay comes from the atmosphere. So that means that air pollution that we create from these bonfires or other emissions like your car also contribute to eutrophication in the bay. So the ocean also soaks up carbon dioxide from the air, and so the more carbon dioxide we release, the more that the ocean's going to soak up. And this is bad for the ocean because it increases the acidity of the water, and this causes health effects for the fish and other aquatic life in the ocean. And lastly, air pollution can cause acid rain, which is rain that's contaminated with chemicals such as sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide. And this occurs when water vapor absorbs gases from air pollution. And so the rain absorbs these, or the soil is going to absorb this rain, or it's going to go directly into our waterways. So basically, overall, these bonfires are also contributing to nutrients in our waterways. So should you stop having bonfires? No, you just have to be smart about them. So don't set up the firewood in advance. Sometimes animals may make a nice little home in there, and it will be very sad if they have when you light your fire up. So just try to make it right before you use it. Also try to use dry wood. It burns hotter and it releases fewer pollutants. Also, do not burn trash or treated wood. This will cause even more air pollution. And try just to have a small fire. You can use thin sticks to create a hotter fire, and this will burn the unwanted gases more effectively. And also, like I mentioned before, make sure you're putting it out completely when you're done. So since air pollution also contributes to water pollution, by having fewer bonfires and following these safe bonfire tips, you are helping to reduce the nutrients in our waterways and are thus creating a healthier environment for the food we eat and the waters we are surrounded by. So next, I am going to talk a little bit about road salt, which I know is more of a winter topic, but it's all around the same time and it's important to talk about. So road salt is usually sodium chloride, and it's going to get into our waterways through groundwater infiltration, runoff, or by storm drains. And so when the salt dissolves in water, it separates into sodium and into chloride. So after the 1960s, the amount of salt we put on the roads has become greater than the amount of sodium chloride that fell from the atmosphere. And this is just because there's more people traveling on the roads, and there's more roads, and people need to get places safely. So freshwater typically has 1% of the salinity of ocean water. However, a study from 2005 found that some freshwater has chloride levels of 25% of the levels of seawater. And so once salt enters the system, it's basically stuck there because there's no practical way of actually removing it from the rivers. So road salt impacts the soil. So sodium attaches to the particles and displaces important nutrients such as calcium, potassium, and magnesium. And this will increase the mobility of metals in the soil like copper and zinc. And then the plants absorb sodium and chloride instead of the nutrients that they actually need. So it's going to make the soil more dense and compacted, and it's harder for the water to drain. It reduces the soil stability, and it also decreases overall fertility. And so even a small amount of chloride can be damaging to land plants. As you can see in this picture here, these are all plants that have been damaged by the road salt. And it can even cause the plants to die. So road salt also impacts aquatic life. So as I said before, it gets into the water from runoff, groundwater, and storm drains. So sodium chloride causes the water to have a higher density, so it will sink to the deepest part of the water. And then this prevents the mixing of the water, so the dissolved oxygen can't reach the bottom layers, while the nutrients from the bottom then can't get to the top. And so the bottom layer actually is not going to be able to support any life because there's no oxygen. And so chloride affects the health of the food that the aquatic animals eat, and this creates risk for their survival, growth, and reproduction. It also increases the salinity level, or the increased salinity levels cause saltwater species the potential to migrate into fresh waters just since they are saltier. And road salt will also lead to algal blooms because the increased salinity causes zooplankton to die, which is what eats the algae. So this will then lead to more harmful algal blooms. And lastly, road salt is going to affect your own health. So it will increase the levels of sodium or of sodium chloride in well water for those of you who have well water. Also, sodium in water is a health hazard for people with low sodium diets. So the EPA requires concentrations above 20 milligrams per liter to actually be reported. And then, so chloride is not toxic to human health. However, anything above 250 milligrams per liter is going to taste salty and can also cause complications for people with like kidney disease, high blood pressure, or some other health conditions. And so chloride is also going to corrode your plumbing, which will then release toxic metals into your drinking water. And this is also going to affect your dogs. So dogs who ingest salt can show health effects such as diarrhea or vomiting, and they can even have a coma, seizure, or death in severe cases. And also when walking, it's going to irritate their little paws. So how can you make a difference? Obviously, a lot of the salt that's being applied is coming from the state putting it onto our highways. And as of 2018, 20 million tons of salt were applied on US roadways annually. So you can advocate to try to change that, but you can also make small practices in your own home. So some suggestions are to shovel right after it snows so that you don't need to salt, or you're not going to need to salt as much. And then if you do still have to use salt, only use a little bit, and then you can actually scoop it up and reuse it for next time because it doesn't lose any of its effectiveness once it's been put down. Also, if you don't need to go anywhere immediately, the sun is going to help melt a lot of the ice and you won't need to salt at all. And then also try to educate people you know of all of this just so that everyone is doing the same thing to try to help reduce this effect. And yeah, so by using less road salt and reusing it, you're also helping to create cleaner waterways for everyone. Oops. So now I just have some more environmentally friendly fall tips. So as everyone knows, Halloween is coming in like 16 days, I think. So what to do with your jack-o'-lanterns? Americans love pumpkins. We produce 1.5 billion pounds of pumpkins a year, and then 80% of these are available in October. So there are no harm in carving pumpkins. However, we just want to make sure we're disposing of them properly. Most people tend to put them in the trash. However, these are also going to break down as anaerobic decomposition, and it will release methane. So instead, you can compost them. So that means you can just partake in any of the composting methods I mentioned earlier. Also, when you're carving your pumpkin, you can put all the little scraps into your compost. And if you do want to put in your compost bin, just make sure you're chopping it up first so that it decomposes quicker. You can also eat the seeds, or if you don't like the seeds, give them to the birds. Or you can bury your pumpkin in the ground. Just make sure you remove the seeds unless you want to grow a little pumpkin patch in your yard. Also, you can just leave them out somewhere in your yard that's safe for the animals to eat them. Deer, squirrels, and birds love pumpkins, so they will appreciate that. Also, if you're going to dress up or you know someone who is, suggest them to reuse Halloween costumes. You could trade with your neighbors or your friends or go to Goodwill. Most of the times, Halloween costumes are only used once, which is very wasteful. Also, just make sure if you see any candy wrappers on the streets during this time of year, pick them up. We don't want those washing into the waterways either. Another tip that I found interesting is about candles. So most candles are made from paraffin, which comes from petroleum, which is a non-renewable resource. And in order to actually make these candles, they are deodorized and bleached before being turned into wax. And this process contains a lot of toxins, and they all have carcinogenic properties. So basically, since these candles are made from toxins, when you burn them, you're then emitting these toxins into your home. And this is going to release greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and volatile organic compounds such as acetone. And these are known carcinogens. And this is basically the same as breathing in diesel exhaust. So overall, just really, really bad. So an alternative that we can do instead is use beeswax candles. So beeswax candles are created all naturally, and they burn cleaner and undergo no chemical processing, and they actually produce very little smoke because they contain no oil in them, and they're going to burn longer. Some people say that they like purify the air in your home because it's burning. The burning releases negative ions, and it's going to extract dust and pollen from your air. And another option that people may have seen is using soy candles, which are better than like regular scented candles. However, soy is also usually grown with pesticides and insecticides, so the beeswax candles are the best way to go. Another tip that you guys can do is to do some gardening right now. The weather is very nice, so it's a great time to be outside. And also, if you want to plant some spring bulbs, they do require a season of cool temperatures if you want them to flower in the spring. And this is because there's a biochemical process that they go through that actually makes them flower. Another thing you can do, it's also a great time to plant trees and shrubs. So since it's getting cooler out, there's less heat stress on the trees, and also the fall rain is going to help establish their root systems. And so this is going to let them have a stronger root system so that they need less water come the springtime. Another thing you guys could do is to dry, if you grow herbs outside right now, you can dry them so that you still have some of your own in the wintertime. And so you do that by just tying the branches together and putting them in a paper bag, and then you hang them upside down, and they can be ready in as little as a week. So it's very simple. Okay, another tip that I have is that it is a great time to save energy. So it's suggested that you clean your furnace once a year. You should also have it inspected. And it just collects dust and debris throughout the year, which can make it run less efficiently. You can also program your thermostat so that it's cooler for when you're not home and at night when you're sleeping. And it is suggested to keep it at 68 degrees in the fall and winter. And this will having it at this temperature will put less strain on your HVAC system and help it run more efficiently. Also, so your water heater is normally set to 140 degrees. However, it doesn't really need to be this hot and it can burn you. So you can just put it at 120 degrees and you'll save a lot of money that way. In addition, just make sure there's no leaks or any like gaps in your windows or doors, and you make sure you seal them up if there are. And also you can reverse the spin of your fans. So if you change it to spin clockwise, then it'll actually push the warmer air down and redistribute it. However, make sure you're gonna put that back in the summertime. And my last fun tip for everyone is to check on your tires. So the cooler weather is going to reduce your tire pressure, and it only takes a few minutes to check on it, so it's really important to do. Also, at the same time, you may want to rotate your tires so that they wear evenly, and this will also improve your gas mileage and help your car run safer. And it's typically recommended to rotate your tires every 5,000 to 7,000 miles, so it could be a good time for you guys to do that. And so those are all my fun fall tips. Thank you all for coming so much to my webinar, and let me know if you guys have any questions. Oh, I see a question in the chat that says, how can we find out if our candles are made from paraffin? So from what I have read, if it doesn't say beeswax or soy on the candle, usually it'll say like right under like the scent of it, it'll say like beeswax or soy. If it doesn't say that, then you can just assume that it is paraffin. And most candles are. It was like the majority of them are. So your candles probably are made from paraffin. So if nobody else has any questions, thank you all so much. If you have another question that you don't want to share, you can respond to the follow-up email that I'm going to send out to everyone. And yeah, thank you all so much for coming.